welcome back to Minor League Cricket Live 2025. And I can't believe we're already here. We are right on the eve of those long-awaited Super 8s. Nate Hayes, you're here with me as always. I'm Aaman Patel, and we had a blast this minor league, and we're coming to the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, it's been a spectacular season so far, and we've got way more in store. You know, we've got a lot of games down at Grand Prairie. We have some games here in Morrisville where you and I will be doing commentary. It's just, I couldn't be happier.
No doubt about it. Couldn't be happier at all. And you mentioned the kind of hybrid role that we'll see. Yes, there'll be games for the Super 8 that are both in Grand Prairie and here at Church Street Park locally to us. Now, tomorrow is the start of the Super 8s, and it starts in Grand Prairie with 2 games there. It'll be 2 p.m. local time and 7 p.m. local time. And then from there on out, we'll have 3 games a day, 2 up in Church Street Park and 1 at Grand Prairie surrounding it. So absolutely a jam-packed week of cricket. And then a final on Sunday right here. We are back to where we'll have an Atlantic team take on a Pacific team. So maybe we'll get our first Atlantic champion, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, and a cool thing is 7 of the 8 teams in this Super 8 have been to the final before. There's only one team that hasn't, and that's Baltimore, and they look mighty good.
Well, they were very close last year as well, so it'll be very intriguing to see how all that runs around. Before we jump into any of the action, I want to jump into the chat where I encourage all of you tuning in to throw something down in there. We love to have that conversation with you guys. That's why we like to go live. We want to have that dialogue. And our big man, PJ, he's still number 1 here on YouTube. I'm not sure he's the number 1 USA Cricket fan. Him and Phil still fighting it out, but he's got a couple right off the bat. We appreciate you, PJ, for tuning in. He says, good to see Nepal roll over the West Indies twice. It must be nice to play official T20 matches. When will USA ever play a proper T20 match again? Well, 2 parts. Brilliant to see what Nepal just did. Historic in that manner, but not surprising. That team has been so good. And the fact that they won today's game with the fielding efforts, I mean, Dipender Singh Airi, I think, launched himself into another stratosphere with the people watching this game.
Yeah, he's been a tremendous player and fielder. I think he could play in any league in the world as a fielder at the very least, and I think he brings a lot of energy to the team. He's going to make every team better.
And Goshen Jha was brilliant with that catch as well. Now into the USA side of those things. Actually, PJ, good news. The USA does have a tour coming up, a Cricket World Cup League 2 tour. Now, those are ODIs, but what League 2 has done, a brilliant innovation to bring more T20 cricket to the associate members. They'll tack on a T20I tri-series or bilateral series on the front or the back of those tours. So expect that soon. That's something to look forward to and to get the T20 USA side back in action and see what they can do before the World Cup coming up in the early part of next year. PJ's not done. He says, what can we expect from the Morrisville wicket this week? What's a good first innings par score? And how are the floodlights these days? Nate, I'll let you start.
Well, that's a great question because it depends on the time of day. It depends on obviously the teams involved. The early games, which will be at 1 o'clock, the toss doesn't matter as much, but we see spin playing a major part. I think typically you're going to want to score at least 150. I think with these teams that we have here, 170 you're going to want to score. Yeah. But we've had a lot of rain and the outfield's going to be slower. So that's going to factor into it as well. It's really anybody's guess. I think we'll know after the first day or so, but I think you gotta want to get at least 160 or so on these wickets.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think 160 to 175 is going to be a par score. I think it's been very tricky if you're trying to look at the stat sheet of scorecards of other games and try to predict a par score from there because it's really varied. When you had maybe the bottom of the Southern Division playing, 130 will play 130, but when you get some of these top teams out there, we've seen the Atlanta Fire score upwards of 200, the Baltimore Royals score upwards of 200. We've also seen them struggle to score. So I think that there'll be a big question. I'll be curious to see how it plays. But the wicket is very durable. That's the one thing that I've taken away from the entire season. I've seen maybe one ball through the entirety of 4 weeks stay a touch too low.
Yeah.
One delivery. And the Labor Day weekend was intensive. Every weekend we've had at least 3 days worth of cricket. It's been absolutely brilliant. So I'm not concerned about the durability of those wickets. I think they'll play right through, and there's something in it for everybody. The pacers will get some swing, the spinners will get plenty of turn, and the batters will have a lot of fun. Ask Stephen Taylor, ask Monak Patel, ask Gunarjeet Singh, but that just might be a love affair for him.
Yeah, you want to have a deep squad in all sorts of bowling variety styles here at Church Street because of those 1 p.m. games are very different than the evening games. If you're batting second in the evening game, it takes a lot of the bite out of the spin, but not as much as you might think. Now, that's because of the dew factor, which tends to come when you have a hot day and a cooler night. We're not going to have a lot of hot days here, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
It's going to be really intriguing. They still say dew plays a big factor. Even we felt that there wasn't much dew around, but the teams that were very adamant that the dew was playing a factor, even on games where you didn't feel the temperature dropped that much. PJ's got one more for us. He says, are there any youngsters playing in the Super 8s that you hope to get a decent chance to showcase their skills against top opposition this week? Nate, I'll start with you. Anyone that jumps to mind?
Yeah, I think, let me go to the Baltimore squad here. I think I really like the way that they use their young fast bowler, Aryan Batra, who took 10 wickets this season. There have been games where he doesn't bowl till the last over, or he doesn't bowl till right at the end, and he'll take wickets anyways. And then when he gets his quota, he usually rewards them. I'm really excited about seeing Aryan Batra. We've seen him here a lot. I think Rishi Ramesh, also from Baltimore, brings a lot of energy to the team. I would like to see him score a little bit more, but he's got so much confidence. Just a matter of time before I think he kicks into gear. How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, Arjun Vijala would be really interesting to see how many games he's able to pick up for the Stallions down here in the South. As he comes down south into Church Street Park, I think he's a very interesting all-rounder, and he's been more known for what he does with the bat. I think when you look at it out west, I think Adam Khan for me is really exciting. Obviously, he's a major leaguer, but if you're Kings 11 and you're thinking, okay, we have a chance to get to the finals, I want Adam Khan in real flow, because once you get to Church Street, his leg spin becomes ever so valuable. So he would be someone I'm really pushing into. I also, look at Rahman Dar as another guy. He might have aged out of the emerging quote unquote, but he's right there as a young talent who's going to be a part of that opening batting group. And I think to see him and what he can do is going to be really intriguing to see how he performs and if he's able to continue to that same kind of onslaught here in the Super 8s. Well, we'll get to more questions here in a second. Actually, we'll do one more. Let's do one more, and then we'll go into everything else. Hippo, he says, who has the best chance to win it all, and why? Is it Kings 11 Dallas? Well, Hippo, I'm not sure it is Kings 11 Dallas. You can say that, and I don't think there's anything wrong in saying Kings 11 are going to walk away with it. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't know if they make it out of the Central, Nate. I look at East Bay and their depth. You've talked about it tremendously over the shows. I think they have a real opportunity. The Kingsmen are the defending champs for a reason. Mm-hmm. And then I look at the Atlantic. I think the Atlanta Fire are the most complete they've ever been. I think Baltimore looks scary as ever. I don't know that Kings 11 are just going to walk into a final and win it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, it's the Super 8. All the teams are really good. We're going to find out the answer to a lot of these questions. The fast bowling, or the bowling depth in general of a team like East Bay Blazers, who felt like maybe they were a bowler short last season. They don't feel like they're a bowler short this season. I think that's going to come into play. Kings 11's got a tough road ahead. Yes, you got to favor them a little bit, I guess, because they're a very good squad. But I think maybe they might be lacking a little bit in the bowling department, too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at that bowling department, it's left a little bit to be desired, and they've really gone looking for different pieces. We've seen Malhotra bowl some leggies. We've seen Obis Pinar be used more and more, which we think that's a great option.
Yeah.
But it seems like they haven't really had a set order. When you look at some of these other teams, like the Baltimore Royals, for example, you know what their bowling is going to consist of. When you look at East Bay, they can go in many different directions for their bowling. So I'm not sure that Kings 11 are just going to walk into the final. But how did we get to these Super 8s? Well, there were a couple of games this past weekend that we got to talk about. And Nate, I'm going to throw it over to you for the South. Talk to us about what happened.
Well, it all came down to Friday and Saturday in the South. There were three teams still in play. Lightning and Fire had the Atlanta Derby to decide. And on Friday, the Lightning would have to win. Janoy Drysdale took 2 wickets, one early, Manonk Patel. And then it was a delayed start. There were only 5 overs. Decided to do a wet wicket. You can see Shakib Al-Hassan would follow with 2 wickets of his own. 6 wickets fell for just 19 runs. And in the chase, Stephen Taylor would waste no time. And they would chase it down in just 2.3 overs. Unfortunately for Atlanta Lightning, they couldn't do much. They didn't have any batters with more than 7 runs, so they couldn't put a big total up. On Saturday, it was the Lightning trying to play for pride, and we saw the return of Aaron Jones, who scored 28 from 20 balls, and a big boost also from Paul Palmer, who scored 26 from just 16. And then it was all the Fire spin attack. Steven Taylor struck early, bowling Nicholas Monahar, and Shakib Al-Hassan took 3 wickets of his own, and nobody was more excited about it than Jamar Hamilton right there. You see him just throw the ball up into the heavens and just take off running. I think that got to like the 6th heaven right there. That was just incredible stuff. Yeah, it's, here he is again, look at making another great play. I can't wait to see Jamar Hamilton at Church Street Park. Here, throwing it up there again. This time he's decided to catch it too.
he's such box office stuff there. Love Jamar Hamilton. Glad to see him back at Church Street Park. And that was our big question about the Atlanta Fire. When we saw him at Church Street, we said, okay, yes, they can beat up on Orlando. They can beat up on Fort Lauderdale. They can beat up on Morrisville. But what are they going to look like when they see Baltimore? What are they going to look like when they see Atlanta Lightning? They beat Baltimore in one game. They handily beat the Atlanta Lightning. So, again, they've shown that they have range. They're able to beat anybody and everybody.
Yeah, they're a very good squad. They finished first in the division thanks to this undefeated weekend. And unfortunately for Baltimore, they didn't finish in first because of the fact that they had a washout after basically tanning the hide of the Morrisville Raptors for 63 runs all out, and then washing out in the intermission. That was tough luck for them. But that meant that the Atlanta Fire took first place. That's going to be a big deal.
It is, and the reason is because of the weather that's pushing through. There's a bit of a tropical storm that's been flying around. It's been pushing away more and more, but you never know with these storms. And there was rain. Today was incredibly rainy. Tomorrow is expected to be much of the same. It's supposed to keep away from Wednesday and beyond. Again, if it turns back, different story, but then you consider drainage, you consider the outfield.
That's right.
What's it going to be like? We don't know. We're hoping that we play every single game. We'll knock on every piece of wood we can, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out and how that will be decided. And you imagine the rankings going to play a role in deciding that. And the Fire, at least in the Southern Division, they hold the keys to it.
Yeah, absolutely. They certainly do. Steven Taylor's captaincy has been really fun to watch. He's a very proactive captain. Yeah. You like to see a lot of slips here at Church Street Park. If you like to see slips, if you like to see a third cordon as well, Steven Taylor's your guy. I think I love watching him as the captain now. Aaron Jones back in the squad from the CPL. It'll be interesting to see which person gets the nod more than the other. And then Shakib Al-Hassan coming from the CPL as well. The Atlanta team just got better this past weekend, and that was after dominating the whole season.
And you talk about depth and bowling depth. I look at the spinning depth now for the Atlanta Fire. Steven Taylor, world-class off spinner. Shakib Al-Hassan, no need to say much about him. Sunny Patel. Ansh Dave. Ansh Patel. So many options. Well, that's
Parth Patel if he's in.
So you have 4 genuine, and then you can throw to Parth Patel if you need to for a 5th spinning option.
That's right.
And pair that with a Janoy Drysdale, with a Madreddy.
Yes.
Right, with an Ansh Patel.
With Madreddy, man. That ball
with an Aryan Patel, rather, who's another seamer, young seamer that they can go to.
That's right. And that Madreddy ball, it was just, the guy swings the ball like crazy. Yeah. And we'll see how that comes into play here at Church Street Park. But with the youth, they got Rishi Pandey, they got Aryan Patel, Parth Patel, Viraj Vaghela. They got options with the youth. We've seen a lot from Rishi Pandey over the years. This Atlanta team is very deep. The big question to me is, what if Steven Taylor gets out early? He's done so well this season. Let's see how they respond to that. And they have in the past. But they've got Paul Palmer, Sagar Patel. They have good batting throughout this team.
No question.
It's just going to be a very exciting squad.
It's going to be a question of who you drop, right? That's going to be the big ploy.
That's right.
Are you willing to lose a Paul Palmer to maintain some of that bowling, or are you losing someone else? How are you going to manage bringing in the 2 young players? It's going to be really interesting. Atlanta will have some questions that will need to be answered there. But there are questions to be answered elsewhere in the country, Nate.
That's right.
And we want to just take a slight rewind back, not just to this past weekend, but the weekend before it to set us up. Because we had what came down to be a game that mattered so much. The Dallas Exploria Giants, they took on the Kings 11 Dallas in what was really a play-in game in and of itself on September 20th. And it was the Dallas Exploria Giants who were batting first in that matchup. And you look at it there, this again would basically decide who goes to that eliminator. Smith Patel got off to a great start, 79 off of 57. You see the shots all around the ground. And then Akashit Gomo said thank you very much, 58 off 31 for him, hitting the spinners and the pacers with ease. But then Kings 11, they turn to the man who returned from the CPL, Andres Gels. Just look at the onslaught, onside, leg side, full toss with a little just short arm jab all the way down the ground, 88 off 53, unbeaten. And Obis Pinar says, thank you very much, 45 off of 29 of my own. But in the last over, they needed 9 runs. As you see more Obis Pinar onslaughts all around. In the last over, 9 runs were required, and Rowan Rajay's bowling. Andres Gels takes a second delivery and gets caught. He thought he hit it for 6, and now the game's flipped on its head. On the 5th, Sanchit Sandhu squeezes it past Smith Patel. They take 4 runs and it levels the score. Needs to get through the line, doesn't. And it's a super over, inbound, and the Kings 11 Dallas will have to bat first, and Andres Gels starts it in emphatic fashion. 6 runs to start the over, then a no ball, and a 6 more to follow it, 7 from that delivery. And then, you know what, Andres Gels says, just for good measure, since I've hit you for 2 6s in the over, you've bowled me a wide and a no ball, I'll take you for 4. And he's clamoring for that to also be a no ball. It wasn't given, much to his dismay. And the Kings 11 finished 24 for 1. Cheyenne Jahangir, Akashit Gomo, they start off strong with a first ball 4. But after missing out on a no ball and a free hit, it was all Kings 11 Dallas as they finished the regular season in second. Nate, that game had all the emotion attached to it.
Well, for a game that had such big stakes to come down to a super over like that, that is the magic of minor league cricket. This is going to be a classic game for years to come.
Oh my God. And again, I thought 24, that's impossible to chase down in the super over. And then Cheyenne Jahangir starts it with that 4, and you're like, well, hello, Cheyenne Jahangir. This could really be something.
Yeah.
And then you got the no ball, and you're thinking, wow, if you put this away for a boundary, you're really in business. And it just didn't happen to be that way. But I thought Exforia this year took a massive step in the right direction. Even though they were in the Super 8 last year and not in it this season, I thought they looked like a better unit this current year.
The entire Central is getting better and better and better, and that's saying a lot because it's been quite good.
Yeah.
Well, and someone's got to miss out.
Someone's got to miss out. And because you have the defending champs and then the team everyone has picked to win the whole thing ends up being the Exforia Giants. But the Kings 11 Dallas weren't in just yet. They had to go and play an eliminator alongside the Metroplex Tracers. And this happened just this weekend, September 27th, with a spot on the playoffs on the line. And Metroplex, well, they were undone, 111 all out. 2 from Obis Pinar off the bat. This ridiculous one-hander from Corey Anderson off of Rishabh Simpy, who took 2 wickets of his own. And then Ali Sheikh, who gave his captain that high five there, says, I can take 2 wickets. There's one of his LBWs straight in front. 111 was all the Tracers could manage, and it was a quick 13-over chase thanks to Andres Gels, who says, yeah, I'll carry the form from the CPL. 67 off of 28, unbeaten, and that is the winning runs. You hit that 6 to win. That went out of the stadium, ladies and gentlemen. Don't need that ball because game over. And Kings 11 walk into the playoffs where most people thought they should be the entire time.
Yeah, this game was pretty anticlimactic. It was, I was really stoked for it.
Sure.
It's a high-stake game, but the Kings 11 team, when they're on their game, they're just super good.
Unbelievable. And so that set us up with these playoffs. So I want to start out in the East. Let's go out there and see what those standings finish like out East. And when you look at those standings, you look at the fact that the Stallions, they went perfect on the year, Nate. They were blemish-free, even with some close games, and the Cavaliers joined them back up top of the table. Really not a surprise at who the top 2 were in this division.
Yeah, both of these teams have been to a final before. Both have fallen short. The Cavaliers had a rough start to the season, but just like they have done so many times, they righted the ship and they made it into the playoffs. The Stallions several times were on the brink of defeat, but that team battles about as good as anybody. And they're just going to scratch and they're going to claw, and they never seem to panic.
And give Simon Kamal a lot of credit. He was the leading batter out in the East and was phenomenal. I want to jump to a comment real quick from, is it Cal Maestro? Is that what you say? He said, up the Philadelphians. Why did New York Ovals take my beloved team away for practically the whole year? Why can't we play our games at Philadelphia Cricket Club or Germantown or Marion? JK, LOL.
It's a great idea. I mean, we would love to see that too. Honestly, Philadelphians, I think they're a really well-run organization. They care about their fans, and their fans obviously care about them. I think it would be awesome to see some games there at the Philadelphia Cricket Club in particular.
Yeah, it would be. And they did finish 4th this year, slightly a step back, but again, you have great pieces in place. Cornet Dry, Ryan Scott's still there.
Yeah.
And I think they'll only continue to get better. I think the loss of Van Tol actually hit them a lot harder than they thought it would.
I think so. Van Tol had a great season. I think this is a team that is always looking to succeed. Every year they go back to the drawing board a little bit. They sign players that they think are going to help them. They're all about trying to win. Morali does a good job with that squad.
And I think Omkar Zope, he's a big addition for them, and I think he'll be good for them for a very long time. So things to look forward to with that team. Let's move into the South, and let's look at the two teams that have moved on to the standings there. It's the Baltimore Royals and the Atlanta Fire, who are part of that. This was right before that play-in game that we saw, so it is the Fire who have jumped into first place on that table. But Nate, what stands out about this set of standings for you?
Well, it was kind of top heavy. We talked about it a lot on the broadcast about how this division was kind of like two divisions, if you will. The bottom 3 teams are kind of rebuilding. They're very young squads. Mooresville was finished as the best of that group, but you can see that the 4th place team only had 3 wins on the season. So it was really a 3-horse race for the playoffs, and honestly, I felt like Atlanta Fire had the edge the whole time between the 2 Atlanta teams. But the Atlanta Lightning are a very, very good team, and they gave them a push for sure, as well as with the Baltimore Royals. But Baltimore only lost to one team, and it was Atlanta Fire. Atlanta Fire only lost to one team, and it was Baltimore. Yeah. And if it hadn't been for that washout, I think Baltimore finishes at the top of this table.
Sure. Yeah, again, that you talk about the net run rate boost they would have gotten. They would have had the better net run rate, right? That would have been the case, just having to chase down 63. Again, I think that this is the most complete Southern Division playoff teams that we have. I think when you looked at in years past, with the Marshall Raptors who've gone through, you say, there's a couple of things where the bowling feels a bit light. Or you look at maybe some of the Fire teams in the past, you say, they could use one more real star. I thought 2022, the Atlanta Fire team there was the most complete it had ever been. I thought it was the most complete Atlantic playoff team we had ever had.
That's right.
And I look now into 2025, and I think both of these rosters might be more complete than that 2022 Atlanta side.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And Baltimore last season looked fantastic in the Super 8. We talked about how if things had worked out differently, they could have easily been in the final.
Yeah.
I think they look even better this year. Their fielding, I think, has taken a big step forward this season.
I agree.
And so I think when you look at this Baltimore side, the washout obviously cost them the division, but they have loads of spin. Yeah. They got Lada with 20 wickets, who passed 100 wickets this year. They've got Mosen with 18. These 2 leggies have just absolutely dominated at Church Street Park, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them. Mosen has a little more range as far as his ability to add zip to it or to take zip off of the ball, but Lada really dominates with the flighted deliveries. We'll see how that does against these teams, which are all playoff teams. But the spin, and then you have Lumba in the mix. The fast bowling is super deep. Rishi Dhawan, Aryan Batra, Adil Bhatti. Also, Rishiv Joshi, the Canadian, got one game, and he looked absolutely tremendous. So the batting is crazy deep and versatile. They have so much versatility. Kunwarjeet, Lumba, Agni Chopra, and we talked about just Karan. You can go on. Mukhtar Ahmed, we haven't even talked about him yet. But I think they have 7 bowlers with an average under 20. They have so many options. I think the great youth in Rishi Ramesh, Aryan Batra, it's just this team is so complete.
Yeah, and we'll get into these teams a little bit more in a second. But I agree. I think this Baltimore team looks complete. I think so does that Fire unit, and they click, right? So we'll have a look about all these Super 8 teams in a bit and just have that bit of a conversation, and want to hear from you guys as well if you guys have any thoughts. But let's move into the Central and the standings there. Again, the graphic was pre those play-in games, so it's going to have Metroplex in second here, but it is Kings 11 who have moved past. This was after the final regular season game before those play-ins, and it is the Kingsmen. They finished up top the table. Their only loss was to Kings 11 Dallas at the very start of the year. And then they had the 2 no results in the mix there. But They lost on opening day. You said, oh, are they going to take a step back? No, they kept pushing. And then Kings 11, they walked back in. You hear about it all the time. The 8 major leaguers. I think the Kingsman storyline might just be underrated at the moment. Talk about the pieces they lost. You lose an Ali Sheikh. Ali Sheikh wasn't there, but you lose an Ehsan Adil. That's a huge loss for your team. They've lost so many big name players that could have easily been there and could have easily helped that team out. And now you're kind of in the mix to try to rebuild, and I thought they've done brilliantly. Again, Kings 11's Kings 11. But I think Metroplex, I was such a fan of Shubham Ranjane. I thought Josh Tromp was great.
Sure.
Matt looked great this entire year. And then Anj Bohe was phenomenal for them all season long. So it's such a shame that someone's got to miss out here, because I think you could have looked at Metroplex, you could have looked at Xforia as 2 teams that could have easily competed in a Super 8.
Oh, 100%. And the fact that Kings 11, as stacked as they are, lost 3 times.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how loaded that division is. It's incredibly deep.
Yeah, no question about it. So let's move into the West here. When you look at those Western standings and you look at what you have here, not a huge bit of surprise that East Bay's up top the table. The big question was Seattle going to be back? Or was Silicon Valley going to have that final push? We mentioned all 3 results were kind of in play. I think 4 results were in play headed into the weekend.
Yep.
And it was Silicon Valley that broke through.
Yeah, and Golden State Grizzlies, if they won out on that final weekend, they would have made it into the playoffs as well. So you're talking about the Grizzlies and the Seattle Thunder are the only 2 teams that have made it to the well, the Grizzlies never made it to the final, but the Thunder are the only team that's made it to the final that didn't make it to the Super 8.
Yeah, the Thunderbolts.
This season, Seattle Thunderbolts. Yeah, and they were a very, very good squad, but the East Bay Blazers they found themselves in difficult positions a lot, and they got themselves out of that. They had 6 different players get Player of the Match awards this season. Their bowling is just super deep. Paradkar led the league with 22 wickets. Vikash Mohan was almost unhittable at a 4.81 economy. Sanjay Krishnamurthy, Carmelo Rowe, Ahmadzai, Rashil Urgarkar, Angelo Pereira. It's just unreal. Even Arnav Iyer, the youngster, they have 7 or 8 guys that you can give the ball to for 4 overs in 8 innings. It's just unbelievable how deep their bowling is. The big question is their batting. Sujit Gowda has passed the 2,000 runs this season. Saideep scored his century, but there's only 4 batters in the team with an average over 20. And that's the same thing with Silicon Valley Strikers, the 2nd place team in the West. They also only have 4 batters on the team with an average over 20. So if you get through the early batting on these 2 teams, they get into trouble. Shihan Jayasuriya with Silicon Valley Strikers is the Sujit Gowda of the Strikers with 330 runs this season. He's going into the Super 8 in form.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they're a fast bowler short, or maybe their fast bowling's a little bit thin this year. Raymond Reefer's been very expensive. Nawaz has been a bit expensive. Only 3 bowlers with a bowling average under 30, and only 3 with 10 or more wickets. The good news is one of those bowlers that doesn't have 10 or more wickets is Saurabh Netravalkar, who obviously lost time. So their fast bowling is better than it looks on paper because they had to go without him for some time. But the big question is, what if Shihan gets out early, and though they did also have 6 players of the match. Now, the 2 similarity between these 2 teams is they scrap.
Yeah.
They find a way to win even when things go south.
Yeah, and like we said, we'll get into all these teams here in a second, but I think that when you look at the Western Division, and like you said, it's a scrappy division. It was a lot tougher, it felt like, this year for teams to score runs, and again, you felt the grit come through in that Western Division. Let's jump back into these comments here for a bit. We have Sarvjit Ladda. Thank you for tuning in. We always tune into your game, so thank you for tuning in to us. He says, toss will be the key at Church Street Park, I guess. What's your opinion on this? Yeah, I think the toss is very important. I think really for the first day, so I think Wednesday morning, I think that'll be the morning toss that's the most important morning toss, or afternoon toss, I guess. And I say that because it'll be on the back of all of that rain. So what the outfield looks like, how wet is the area around, that'll be the big question. Is it sunny? Is it going to be really gloomy? And then obviously we know what the night brings. I think it's going to be dewy. I think it's going to be, you win the toss, you choose to bat second,
That's right.
and the chasing team's going to have an easier time getting over the line.
That's right. Now, we have seen teams win when they bat first at Church Street Park in the evening. It's very, actually, if you look at the numbers, it's pretty close to even. And remembering back to the 2022 final,
Yeah.
Seattle won the toss and chose to bat first.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, what are you doing? This is the place where you bat second.
Yep.
But pressure.
Exactly.
That matters so much, and it's going to matter throughout these Super 8s. So we're going to see, I think the toss does help to win the toss here. As you know, I mean, it gives you an emotional boost. And,
Sure.
But I think having Lada on your team helps even more.
I agree. I think the one thing is you don't want Sarabjit Ludda to have to bowl with the wet ball. I'm not saying you can't, but I think you'd prefer bowling with that drier ball, so that would go into consideration as well. PJ's got a couple more questions for us. He says, what does Nate's hat mean? L for love.
It's a baseball team in London, the London Mets. It's part of their amateur baseball league out there. It's pretty.
Well, there you go. So some grassroots baseball and some grassroots cricket.
I've seen him play. I got to see him play in London.
Perfect. And then PJ also says the Texas, parentheses, Dallas teams, well, they might as well play in their own division. At this point, I don't think you'd be far off. Again, you look at Metroplex, you look at Kings 11, you look at Xphoria. Those are three ridiculously great sides that would just compete with each other. And I think Texas has some of the better teams in the entire country. And then Apple Fritter says, PJ, absolutely. So I don't think, PJ, you're the only one with that thought on there either. All right, well, let's move into what are some accolades for this season. Let's start with the leading batters, right? I think that there's been so many great scores and so many phenomenal averages that we've seen. I think there's some surprising names on the list, not names you'd necessarily expect, and that's always fun, right? That you have new people continuing to climb through the list. And you look at the first name on there, Ronak Sharma, 408 runs, batting for the Fort Lauderdale Lions, and you'll sit there and say, their record doesn't say that those are match-winning innings. I'm going to sit here and argue, and I'm going to stand up for Ronak Sharma because I think in the past, I would agree that some players have kind of just played their numbers along, but his innings were, him and Mario Rampersad were the two batters that you felt when they were in for the Lions, they had any chance to do anything at all. And Ronak Sharma was so consistent all year long.
Yeah, he was. And shout out to Mario as well. But they went into the middle under immense pressure every time. They both knew that if that partnership broke up early, they were going to lose, basically. They knew they had to carry the innings, and Ronak Sharma did it more often than not. So hats off to him. Very well deserved. If you look at his strike rate, it's not going to blow anybody away, but he did his job for that squad.
Aaron Johnson, holy moly, was he destructive. So fun to watch. I was so sure that he was going to finish at top of the table, but he was great to watch throughout the entire year. Smith Patel had some unbelievable innings out in the Central. What's amazing to me about this list is there's only one Central batter on it. The division of bats only has one of the top 5 leading run scorers in the country. Something to note.
It's crazy.
Sai Mukamala, he's the lone East man out here, 359 runs. And again, I thought this was easily Sai's best minor league. Not just because the stats say it, but you just see the leadership that he's had to display. I think the maturity he's had to display. And there's just a bit more pressure, right? He's got to be the one to score, and he's brimming off of that major league debut, and he's come back in unbelievable flow.
This is the division where the wickets can be the most tumultuous, where you can score 129 and feel like you're put the other team away. And so to see a guy in the top 5 in runs from the East is really something special. 100%. And the amount of times where Sai's dug them out of a hole, like the very last game of the season, they lost 5 wickets early, and Sai pretty much had to be there for the rest of the innings for them to win, and he did, and they ended up winning what seemed like comfortably.
Yeah.
I think Sai Mukamala has had an incredible season.
Yeah, and then Sujit Gowda, first minor league cricketer to get to 2,000 runs. Congrats to him. He rounds out that list. Let's move into the top 5 wicket takers now, because again, while the runs were being scored, there were just some unbelievable bowling displays, and Abhishek Paradkar leads that list, and he just edges past Shiley Van Skulpik, who started and finished the season with triple wicket maidens. Unbelievable. And then our very own Sarabjit Ludda, who's watching the show. Thank you very much, Sarabjit. He finishes with 20, which is absurd because you think about what he averages. That's what he averages. Nate, through 5 years of minor league cricket, he's got 100 wickets, so this is just an average season for Sarabjit Ludda.
That's right. It's just crazy. He's been so consistently taking wickets, and obviously Fani Samhadri, another player who passed the 100, the second to pass 100 wickets. The two of them kind of neck and neck all the time. It's a pleasure to be able to see the two of them in the South here.
Yeah, of course. Then you have Yusuf Zaizai and then Abimanyu Lamba, who's the only Central bowler on the list, the only Southern bowler. So it was, again, when we talk about the Central is supposed to be this division of the batters, and we only had one batter in the Central. We would think the East would be the division of the bowlers, and they didn't have a bowler on the list. It was the West that was the division of the bowlers, but I thought, hearing stories from people batting out there, it made sense as to why that was the division of it.
Yeah, that's true. And we're talking about the East bowlers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a youngster, Sahir Bhatia.
Yeah.
Phenomenal with the ball. It took 18 wickets. USA U19 player.
And we'll get to him in a moment. But before we get to him, we want to talk about another young bowler, Abhishek Paradkar, who led the entire league in wickets this season. Well, he's back in the Super 8, but he didn't play in the Super 8 last year. Our very own Nate Hayes, he had a chance to go sit down with him. Take a listen.
I think we've had a very similar setup or a similar group of guys for the last 3 years, I think the good thing is we gel together really well as a team. I think if you see over the last year, as well as this year, there's always different people winning us games at different moments of time, It's not just a story of one or two players. I think we have match winners from 1 to 11. And I think this year especially, our strength has been our bowling lineup. We have so much depth in our bowling lineup. We have most of our bases covered in terms of fast bowling, spinners. A lot of our batsmen, turn out to be amazing spinners as well, in terms of Sanjay Krishnamurthy, Vikash Mohan. So I think that just provides the extra depth. And I think our batting's been, always superb with Sujit, Sanjay, Angelo Pereira, Saideep Ganesh, I think this year, I think we have a really strong chance. We're very confident. Everyone's looking in good touch. Everyone's won us at least a game, throughout the course of the regular season. So I think just the depth that we have as a squad is just superb to see. Even the guys sitting on the bench, they're equally capable of making the 11 and winning us games. But that's just how strong our team is.
Brilliant to hear from Abhishek there. And you know what, Abhishek, I think you did yourself a little bit of a disservice, and Joe Hickey brought it up in the chat as well. You took 5 wickets and 9 balls. So let's not say that you can't win the game either.
And for the rest of that interview, it's about 11 minutes long. You can check it out. It's on this same channel. We published it about an hour before the show. So you want to listen to Abhishek talking about Major League, Minor League, Team USA. He missed last season's Super 8 because he was playing with USA. He talks all about all that and more. Check out that video.
Yeah, it is on MLC Network. It's about 14 minutes long. It's a brilliant little interview. And again, if you want to tune in right after we're done here and get caught up on Abhishek Paradkar, who you will see in these Super 8s, make sure you do it. I have to say this, what's upsetting to me is we won't get to see our buddy Joe Hickey. I thought we were going to get a chance to get him out to Morrisville. He won't be out here in Morrisville, which is, Joe, we miss you. I want to take you back out to our Mexican place. No,
if he had been here, he'd be here now.
He'd be here
on
now,
the show.
right here. This would have been your spot. You can imagine Joe Hickey's face right here. Someone Photoshop it between mine and Nate.
But he's going to be hanging out in good company down in Texas, and we can check him out just the same way that everyone else can by watching the games.
Absolutely, and we will be tuned into those. And make sure you tune in. They start tomorrow. 2 games down there in Texas. But we're not done here on Minor League Cricket Live, because we want to talk about, the emerging players, Nate, because that's what we love to do. We're all about those emerging players, and we found it so difficult to try to pick an emerging player of the regular season. We said we're going to do a batter and we're going to do a bowler. So I'm going to start with the batter. All right, our emerging batter of the season is going to be none other than Ansh Bhoje, because he scored over 200 runs for the Metroplex Tracers in 9 matches, and he did that at a strike rate of over 120. This would be opening the batting or coming in the 1-down position. He did it with multiple partners, all the shots in the book from the left-hand side. What do we need in the USA setup? We need some left-handed batters who could bat near the top of the order or anywhere in the order. Well, Ansh Bhoje, he might be a busy man very soon. What a minor league season for him, and hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from Ansh Bhoje. He was exciting to watch. It's a shame he's not going to be in the Super 8.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see him plenty in the future.
Absolutely. And he's wearing yellow, so maybe a bit of foreshadowing for not just minor league cricket, but maybe Major League Cricket in the future as well. We'll have to wait and see. But Nate, give us the emerging bowler of the season.
Well, Sahir Bhatia from the from Manhattan, New York City Titans. He was just absolutely phenomenal this year. He just consistently took wickets. He was always threatening. Watching their games and watching his innings, you just couldn't wait to see the next ball. He was just so dangerous. USA U19 bowler from a style that tends to work quite well in the USA. Yeah. But he shows a lot of promise for that New York City Titans squad and for just cricket, and for potential in the USA squad, potential in Major League Cricket. He took 18 wickets this season. He was very economical. Sahir Bhatia, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think of that first weekend when he sat there in the final over and took 3 wickets, and he was the reason they won that game as a leg spinner. It's never easy to win that final over, and I think he showed great maturity. He's got great flair about him, very similar vein for me to like Yasser Mohammed, that flair, that fire that we see. And again, we need young leg spinners, and so to have a young leg spinning core, yes, Mohammed Mohsin is leading the way in terms of an experience standpoint, and he's not anywhere near old either. But you talk about the youngsters that are coming up through the system. Yasser Mohammed, who's carried that torch for a while now. Adam Khan, Sahir Bhatia, that are coming up through the ranks, and it's exciting to continue to see them flourish and continue to make noise. And there's plenty others that we haven't mentioned, and Arya Tormelo, who's bowled some leg spin. There's options, and I think it's really exciting to see those leg spinners continue to flourish and find their ways up and about. So, Nate, whilst we've done that, we'd be remiss not to talk about the 8 teams that are left, right? 2 from each division. So the Stallions and the Cavaliers, when I look at that, I think the Stallions are the more complete team. I look at Syed Mukamala, he's been brilliant. Stephen Wigg, Jesse Singh, obviously, with what they do. But I also think about the company Syed Mukamala has at the top of the order, and that might be what sets them apart this season. I think in years past, they haven't really done a lot up top of the order outside of Ricky and Sai, but now you get a Christian Thurton who scored 262 runs on the season, and Akshay Omraj, who's batting probably the best he's batted in minor league cricket. This team might have just found the batting caliber to get them over the line.
And not to mention Dominic Ricky, who leads all East batters in career runs in minor league cricket. He's always good. Jasdeep Singh scored 180 runs this season at a strike rate of 176. I mean, come on, that's crazy. That's super good. So they got batting all through. They actually have really good batting. We saw them kind of embarrass themselves. I'm just going to say they embarrassed themselves last season in the Super 8. Yeah, that is not what the New Jersey Stallions are capable of.
And they were missing so many players. Like Jesse Singh wasn't there. Simon Kamala wasn't there. USA was on duty. So now you're going to have these USA players back.
Yeah. For
the Cavaliers, they are batting by committee, right? They haven't lost that yet. Kanar Lewis can turn it on any day of the week. Chandrapal Hemraj can turn it on any day of the week. Gaj Singh, who maybe hasn't been as prolific as he's been the last 2 years, still phenomenal. And then Ali Imran's been the real resurgence guy of this season. But I look at their bowling. Najaf Shah's still great, but I think you're missing that Adil Bhatti type of figure in this team.
Yeah, I think so. I think they absolutely are. And going back to their batting, they've had a lot of success with the names that you mentioned. Waleed Khan also has had his moments where he's looked really solid for the team. Only 5 innings so far, but he did score a half century. Kevin Christian, they have some batting that I think we'll get into that more in this Super 8. I think they're going to, everybody loses wickets a little bit more against that type of competition.
Yeah, and again, you do have a Rishi Shimpi, you do have a Salman Azad and Abdullah Ghazi who can hold it down, and then Viraj Desai, obviously, who's been brilliant with the spin. I'm just curious to see if you're missing, when you come down here to Church Street Park, where the ball does do quite a bit for the seamer, a guy like Adil Bhatti, who we've seen historically has stepped up in these situations. All right, moving south, we've talked about it quite a bit. Baltimore, we feel, is complete. The Fire, again, we've mentioned that batting group, we've mentioned that bowling group, that they just have depth everywhere. But if you had to pick a weakness out of both of these teams, where are your weaknesses?
Well, the weakness for Atlanta is simply as a result of their domination.
Okay.
And what are they going to do if they lose early wickets?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? We see that so much in tournament play as well.
Yeah.
When you're just dominating up top, and it's been the Sagar Patel show, it's been the Stephen Taylor show. Paul Palmer hasn't had much time in the middle. Aaron Jones is coming back from the CPL. Jamar Hamilton hasn't spent that much time in the middle. Sonny Patel's, he's a good all-rounder, and he hasn't seen many balls on the bat. Neither Shakib Al-Hasan. So, again, all of them can win you the game, but do they have the repetitions under the belt to do it?
Well, when you're bowling a team out for low score, and you win by 10 wickets or 9 wickets, and then you have a couple of shortened games because of weather. You don't really get into the depth of your batting, but when you do, you've got guys like Jamar Hamilton. You've got the guys like Sonny Patel, who's fantastic, and then the addition of Aaron Jones into that batting side, I think is going to be humongous, and not to mention Shakib.
Yeah, for Baltimore, I think for me, the question is going to be around Sarbjit Ludda. He's been their X factor. He's their wicket taker, but we saw in Major League Cricket he was exposed a little bit, just not quick enough through the air. Now, when you're playing more guys who are closer to that level, are you still as effective? Now, Sarbjit Ludda anywhere in minor league cricket has been effective, so
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say he won't be.
Yeah.
But will there have to be a transition period or a period where you're not going to get the 8 overs of leg spin that the Royals have been able to do all season? That's my big question for the Baltimore Royals.
I think he's going to do great personally, because he loves playing at Church. All of his best games we've seen him have been at Church Street Park. He loves this wicket. The wicket loves him back. He's going to be bowling opposite of Mohsen.
Yeah.
And if you talk to Mohsen, he doesn't care what end he bowls from, he says. And that allows Sarbjit Ludda to care if he wants to.
Yeah.
And I think the two of them can benefit each other. And we've seen games where Mohsen went really inexpensive and Ludda took a bunch of wickets. And I think the two of them bowling together for those 8 overs in the middle, plus you throw in the other spin options that they have. If spin is a favorable thing, they're going to win a lot, and he's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. So, again, we'll see what happens in the South. Moving into the Central, the weakness for Kings 11 Dallas, and we've mentioned already, it's their bowling, right? That's where you tend to sit there and say there are things left to be desired. And you look at that stat sheet for their bowlers. Who have been their top 3 bowlers? It's Rishabh Simpy, so a young fast bowler with 8 wickets. Obis Panar, who has been used more and more, and I think is a better bowler than people give him credit for, but he's your leading wicket taker, alongside Amishi De Silva with 8 wickets. So, and Amishi De Silva's had games where he's taken 3 or 4. So it means he's also had games where he's taken 0 and he's been expensive. So for me, I look at this bowling attack. Where's your consistency going to come from? You've got to get through Grand Prairie if you want to take advantage of Ali Sheikh and Obis Panar on a spinning surface. Can you get there? That's your big question. But I don't know what that bowling attack is going to look like, and how comfortable are you consistently having to chase a 180? Not saying their bowling can't do it, but if I were to pick anything, that's where I'm looking for something to be desired.
Yeah, I definitely agree with. I mean, their batting is so deep. They give the ball a lot to Obis, which is
he's been opening the bowling for, which has been brilliant. Like another role that what can Obis do? Right? Put that on a shirt.
Yeah. Put it on a shirt for sure. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, they're such a deep team.
Yeah, no question. And then I go to the Chicago Kingsmen. Their batting has been the same way, but their bowling has showed so much more depth because Zia Huck isn't the end-all, be-all this year. I thought last year Zia was the guy, but you had Ihsan Adil to kind of back you up. Now it's, okay, where can we go? And I think Sukhjinder Singh has been brilliant for them. 15 wickets on the year, and he's added another element, but then you can go to the young Aryan Satish, the spinner, and say, hey, you need to come in and take a wicket. And he's done it in spades. So I think because Zia is dominant up front, and I think that's the difference. Again, it sounds very much the same with Kings 11 Dallas. I just think Kings 11 are missing that front line mainstay bowler that you know is going to consistently be there to build pressure. I think that's what Zia Huck is for the Kingsmen, and then they're able to plan around his overs.
Yeah, and on the batting side, my big question is Tajinder Singh. He's been in a bit of a slump this season. His high score is only 44. He's only totaled 94 runs for them.
Yeah.
We know how good Tajinder is. We know how good he was last season in the Super 8. Hamad Azam has had a good season this year. Remember, last season he didn't have a good season, and then he had a great Super 8.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see the same from Tajinder Singh. They certainly have a lot of quality players throughout their team. But Ramiz Raja, Saida Ali, and Hamad Azam have really carried this batting.
And you say that, and also I sit there and think, well, there's been multiple match winners. Hassan Mohsen has stepped up in big overs. Hamad Azam has won games. Tajinder Singh has won games, even through bad form. So even with all that being said, you're looking at a team that has different guys winning games. We heard from Abhishek Paradkar, he thinks that's what makes East Bay special.
Right.
I think the Kingsmen are special in that same vein.
Yeah, I think you're right. Boy, it's tough to find a weakness on these teams, to be honest with you. It's
It
very
is.
tough
We're,
to do.
we're grasping at straws. We're picking at air but you've got to try to find what's the difference, right? And I think when you go out west now and you start with East Bay, we talked about all about the bowling here.
Right.
I think it's the batting, right? And Saideep Ganesh had a great start to the year,
Yeah.
but he hasn't found those same runs. I think that's a fair thing to say.
I think it's fair to say that now. He has put together a couple other good innings. I think
Couple starts for sure.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, I think that they're going to count on him or they're going to bet on him to come around and really perform for them. He's done such a good job for them over the years. Sujit Gowda has been a rock for the team. And then you talk about Angelo Pereira and Sanjay Krishnamurthy, but they've had to count on Abhishek Paradkar quite a bit with the bat. He's batted 9 times, and certainly he's batting at a higher position than he normally does. But I think that's the big question. They only have 4 batters with an average of 20 or more. If you break through on them early, what's going to happen? Now, with the ball, they can always fight back.
Absolutely. And again, I look at Abhishek Paradkar. Yes, you'll say, second leading run scorer on the team, 273 runs on the season, and he's got the capability and all the talent in the world. But his first innings, he scored 111 runs. So you take that away, you're looking at 140 runs at.
Or wait, yeah.
I'm
sorry.
bad at math.
I'm sorry.
I'm not that bad at math.
You got it.
162 runs for him, and so that averages out to just over 20.
Yeah,
through his 8 innings, besides the 100. So that's for me is my biggest concern because you have Sanjay, but you don't want to have to put him in a pressure situation where he's had to thinking about holding on to wickets or not. Again, Sujit was brilliant in the last 2 Super 8s as he carried that through. I think if Saideep Ganesh has a great Super 8 or a good Super 8, East Bay can walk into the final and right the wrong of last season. It's just I think he is the difference maker as you step up a level here in minor league cricket.
Yeah, and like you said, you're always best when Sanjay Krishnamurthy can worry about strike rate.
Yes, and that's what he wants to do, right? And that's where he's at his absolute best. I think Abhishek Paradkar's bat has also been very beneficial for them. And then you move into the final team out there. You move to the Silicon Valley Strikers. Nate, to you, where do you look at this team? What do you see as their best chance to win? Is there certain players, is there a certain component of their team that needs to step up for them to have success?
Yeah, I think they need it. Their fast bowling, or their bowling in general, they're not taking wickets at a very quick clip right now. I think Saurabh's going to help with that, especially on those wickets there in Dallas or Grand Prairie. Only 4 of their bowlers with an average under 30, as I mentioned before. So the big question for me...
Don't tap the mic, Nate. Sorry for everyone listening there.
Sorry. So the big question for me is that their batting is similar to East Bay in a way that if you break through early, it makes it really difficult for them. But we're seeing that from pretty much all of the Pacific teams, all of the teams in the Central and all of the teams in the West. I think they've got a lot of great experience. They haven't gotten great results from Reefer with the ball. And I think that's a big question mark. But they do have the bats that can score big at the end if they do preserve those wickets. Gary Graham, they haven't had to count on him very much, but he's still going at 137, which is what you want to see from him. And I think this Silicon Valley team, if there's a weakness, it's just their bowling depth.
Sure, and we talked about emerging talents to look for. Amar Garapalli would be another one right here.
Absolutely.
He's going to have a big Super 8, I think, if the Silicon Valley Strikers want to get to the next phase, want to get back into a final and try to be the first team to go back to back, or not back to back, but win multiple minor league finals. That's what's on the line here. If you're, I guess the Dallas franchise would technically have a chance. The Kingsmen could be the first one to go back to back.
Yeah.
These teams, Silicon Valley could win a second final.
Yeah.
So that's on the line. East Bay would be the first team to lose a final and then to win a final.
Right.
And then Baltimore's looking just to get to a final for the first time.
And you're talking with the youth with the Silicon Valley Strikers. Another youngster here is Kamran Hotak, who took 15 wickets this season. He's been sensational with the ball for them. So they do lean on these younger guys quite a bit, and then true domestic. As we remember, we used to separate the domestic or whatever stars from whatever, but they do rely a lot on their domestic players. And so this is going to be a very interesting Super 8, my goodness.
Yeah, no question. And it all kicks off tomorrow. Again, it's 2 p.m. locally in the Central Time Zone and then 7 p.m. centrally on that local time zone there. It starts off with the East Bay Blazers taking on the Kings 11 Dallas. That is an absolute scorcher of a way to start off these playoffs.
It's perfect. It's tremendous. We're gonna see that Kings 11 batting versus that Blazers bowling. It's gonna be a great matchup.
There's nowhere to hide in these Super 8s. Then you move to the Silicon Valley Strikers taking on the Kingsmen later that day. If you were to place your bets, if you had to put your money on a horse there,
gosh.
where you go, or where are you going, or what are you looking forward to seeing? I know. Okay, let's do this instead. Don't make a prediction, but how about this? You said that you want it's the bowling of the Blazers versus the batting and the Kings 11 side that you're ready to look at. When you look at the Strikers versus the Kingsmen, what's the matchup? Is there an individual matchup? Is there a team grouping matchup that you're looking for?
I think it's the big question is, can the Strikers be as scrappy as they've been needed to be? Because I think they're going to need to be scrappy against the Kingsmen bowling attack.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. I think typically we've seen the gritty teams struggle in Grand Prairie because there isn't as much need for grit maybe on that surface. There's more license to go after it, and so it's that mindset change that you have to make kind of on the fly. So that'll be a big adjustment, I think, for these teams coming out west, maybe more so for the Strikers just because they haven't been to Grand Prairie in a playoff situation. All right, then we move to what Wednesday looks like. That's our first quadruple header, which is quite ridiculous. It'll be 2 in Church Street, 2 down in Grand Prairie. It starts at 1 p.m. in both places. We'll start with the Baltimore Royals, who will take on those New Jersey Somerset Cavaliers. I think what I'm looking forward to in that game, it's a spin attack versus that top 4 of the Cavaliers, who like to be aggressive, who like to go after it, and have played on a lot of turning wickets. But can they handle the heat of the 2 leg spinners? That'll be great. When you look at what is to come in the afternoon game out in Grand Prairie, you've got Silicon Valley Strikers. Well, they're taking on Kings 11 Dallas. What's the matchup that you're looking at?
That's going to be, I mentioned before that I thought the Silicon Valley Strikers are a little thin with the bowling. It's really going to test them. I think that Kings 11 team is really going to test that bowling attack.
Yeah, and then again, if you haven't had enough cricket, there's 2 more matches on the same day. It'll be the Atlanta Fire taking on the Stallions, kind of the 2 pings of those divisions, the 2 pillars of those divisions, if you will, and then the Kingsmen taking on the East Bay Blazers to close up shop on those days. Nate, I think these Super 8s are really exciting. I think I'm maybe a classicalist in this way, but I like the idea of an Atlantic team taking on the Pacific team in the final. Am I alone in that?
I like that too. I mean, it's very, I guess, American sports.
Right. You got the AFC, the NFC, you got the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, the ALS and the AS and the AL and the NL. I think those are really cool things.
At the end of the day, the Super 8 has to be divided into 2 tables anyways, basically. So this is a way that makes sense. Last season, we saw, I think we had kind of agreed that the 2 really best teams in the Super 8 were Baltimore and the Kingsmen. But they couldn't make it to the final because they were on the same side of the same table anyways. So I think it's, And
it's going to happen. It could happen that way either way. People could sit there and say, well, the Kingsmen and Kings 11 are the 2 best teams.
Could be.
They can't make it to the final. So there's always going to be that bit of what happens and where do you go from there. But I'm so excited for Super 8 time. I can't believe we're already here. It feels like we just started the season out. I wish we could do this for months and months and months. But,
I know. Me too.
All good things must end, right? That's the way it goes. But we still aren't done yet because it's Super 8 time. So we'll have the entire Super 8s to hang with you on MLC Network. We thank you for joining us in the chat. We always have a great conversation. And joining us live, I know we changed the date on you guys, but you guys are absolutely phenomenal tuning in. For myself, Aaman Patel, for Nate Hayes, and for Bobber Bug, who's produced and directed this entire thing. Thank you for joining us today. Enjoy those Super 8s, and we'll come back to you with the winner.